We'll make a start. So welcome back to week 2. So what we're going to do this evening is we're going to explore the next part of the text, so the next few verses. So we just looked at the very first sentence really last week. So we'll delve a little bit more deeply, and then we'll have our breakout rooms. And then after the break, we'll look at the second stage of the Metta Bhavana. And I'll also talk a little bit about meditation posture. So if you want to have a go at sitting on the floor, I'll talk a little bit about that and how you can go about doing that in a way that's just going to be comfortable for you. Then we'll do a little bit of meditation. Like I said, we'll do the second stage of the practice. We'll set up our home practice for the week, and that'll be the evening basically. But just before we do that, what I thought would be nice is just to actually have a short meditation. So just to arrive, and I'll also read the text, just so we can refamiliarize ourselves with the words of the Buddha that we're going to be looking at over the course of tonight and the rest of the 4 weeks. So if you just want to make yourself comfortable, and when everyone's ready, I'll start. So if you just want to allow your mind to settle into your body, and just begin to tune into your immediate surroundings. So on the one hand, not being really pushy and impatient, but on the other hand, not being floaty and vague. So just having a patient sense of attention and curiosity about your immediate experience of sitting in the room that you're sitting in. Remembering that we've got the equipment we need. We just need to use it, and we use it just by paying attention. And just allowing whatever is there to be there, whether it's something that we feel happy about or whether it's something we feel unhappy about, whether it's painful or pleasant. And we might like to pay attention to the movement of our breathing in our abdomen. Trying to connect with the actual experience of that, the way our body moves and the way our body feels as we breathe. The Metta Sutta. They who are skilled in their good, who wish to attain that state of calm, should act thus. They should be able, upright, perfectly upright, of noble speech, gentle and humble, contented, easily supported with few duties, of light livelihood, with senses calmed, discreet, not impudent, not greedily attached to families. They should not pursue the slightest thing for which other wise people might censure them. May all beings be happy and secure. May their hearts be wholesome. Whatever living beings there are, feeble or strong, tall, stout or medium, short, small or large, without exception, seen or unseen, those dwelling far or near, those who are born or those who are to be born, may all beings be happy. Let none deceive another, nor despise any person whatsoever in any place. Let them not wish any harm to another out of anger or ill will. Just as a mother would protect her only child at the risk of her own life, even so, let them cultivate a boundless heart towards all beings. Let their thoughts of boundless love pervade the whole world, above, below, and across, without any obstruction, without any hatred, without any enmity. Whether they stand, walk, sit, or lie down, as long as they are awake, they should develop this mindfulness. This, they say, is the noblest living here. Not falling into wrong views, being virtuous and endowed with insight, by discarding attachment to sense desires, never again are they reborn. So if you want to bring the meditation to a close. So I wanted to explore the next part of the sutta, the next part of the Metta Sutta. But before I do that, I thought we could just remind ourselves where we were last week. So what we looked at to begin with is the four truths. We heard about the four truths that the Buddha taught. First truth is that there is suffering. There's an element of life which is just unsatisfactory. And the Buddha starts by just recognizing this, just by acknowledging that for what it is, that we feel dissatisfied. We feel that there must be something more than what we presently experience. And interestingly, the word dukkha, which suffering translates, has often been talked about as being like a broken chariot wheel, or a chariot wheel that's slightly bent or buckled. And life's a bit like that. It's like a cart or a chariot that doesn't quite run smoothly. The Buddha says there's a cause for that. He says the cause is the mental state of craving, particularly the craving for everything to conform to the way we want it to be, and not recognizing that actually our will is just a will in a world of wills, all these different wills competing for lots of things. So suffering has a cause. And he also said the third truth is that suffering can be overcome. It can be brought to an end. And that is the goal. So last week we heard about the goal, and we heard that the sutta actually starts with the goal. It starts with the goal talked about as a state of calm. We also heard last week that the goal can be talked about as awakening or enlightenment, the ending of all unskillful or unhelpful or afflicted mental states. And the fourth truth is the truth of the path, the truth that we can work our way progressively from a state of suffering to a state of freedom. So that's what the Buddhist path is about. That's why the Buddha taught the path, to enable people to do that. So it involves the conscious effort to do certain practices, to think in particular ways to help to liberate ourselves. And the Metta actually outlines the path. It's quite a simple, direct exposition of a path to awakening. And it's got 3 different parts. So you've got ethics, meditation, and wisdom. So the ethics bit is about wising up, about to how we live and the way our actions have an effect on our character and on the world. It's about meditation, which is removing hatred or destroying hatred, and wisdom, which is freeing your mind from ways of thinking that don't actually help. So that the particular quality that the Metta Sutta focuses on is, of course, metta, which means something like friendliness or loving kindness. It's a down-to-earth care and concern directed to all living beings, equally, individually, and without reservation. So it's something active and dynamic. So we heard that one of the characteristics of metta is that you'll want to act on it. It'll want to find practical expression. And it's a powerful emotion. It's like the sun rising at dawn. It shines, blazes, and flashes forth. We also heard that the Buddha's voice is conditional, not imperative. In other words, the Buddha says, well, look, this is the way I see things. If you want to attain the state of peace, this is how you need to live. These are the things that you need to do. And then he goes on to actually say what those things are. And he starts with this list of qualities. So he says, starting from the beginning, though they who are skilled in their good, who wish to attain that state of calm, should act thus. And then there's a list of 14 qualities. He says they should be able, upright, perfectly upright, of noble speech, gentle, humble, contented, easily supported, with few duties, of light livelihood, with senses calmed, discreet, not impudent, not greedily attached to families. So he's saying basically that these are the kinds of things we need to look at in terms of the way we live our life to create a foundation for the development of metta. So the principal point to realize here is that what we do, what we say, is intimately related to the kind of mind that we have, the kind of mental states that we inhabit, the kind of attitude that we have to others. So we need, if we're going to cultivate an attitude of metta towards others, of well-wishing towards others, of loving kindness towards others, we need to actually live, when we relate to other people directly, from those same qualities, from metta. So this part of the sutta, this part of the Metta Sutta, is about bringing awareness to how we relate to other people, how we conduct ourselves. So there's quite a few points there. There's actually, like I say, 14 different qualities, 14 different words that the Buddha points out. So I'm not going to be able to cover them all in the next 15 minutes. So I'm just going to pick up a few points. The book, Living with Kindness, has got quite a bit of detail about this section. In fact, this is the longest chapter of the book. So I'd really strongly encourage you to read it and just to get a bit more of a sense of not just the qualities, but also the background in which the context in which the Buddha spoke. So the context of these wandering mendicants, these wandering beggars, actually, living in ancient India and just moving around from place to place, living an incredibly simple lifestyle, begging for their food and following the Buddha's teaching in order to liberate themselves. So like I say, I'd recommend the book. So the first quality that the Buddha points out, so if you want to attain a state of calm, you need to be able. Another translation is capable. So it's interesting that having started off at the peak, at the sort of summit of Buddhism, the state of calm, nibbana, the Buddha goes back to a very, very down-to-earth quality, which is just being capable. So this is characteristic, I think, of Buddhism to operate on different levels. So we're encouraged to see that we have the potential to awaken to the highest state in the universe, actually, the state of awakening. At the same time, recognize that if we want to do that, we need to start looking at the way we live our lives in a very down-to-earth, practical, everyday, moment by moment sense. So it's quite practical in that sense. Buddhism is quite practical. And the first quality the Buddha points out is just to be able, just to be capable, just to be able to take responsibility for your life and make things happen. Just have the basic confidence that you can do stuff, you can make things happen, that you have that kind of confidence. So it's quite a down-to-earth kind of quality. In a way, it's not even sort of spiritual. It's a as we'll see, these qualities are in a way just about being a kind of happy, well-adjusted human being. So just starting by being able. So even that can be a practice. We don't always feel able. We might feel a lack of confidence. And hopefully through the course, we'll discover how we can develop confidence if a lack of confidence is an issue for us. So first of all, just able. And then the Buddha talks about being upright. So the word uju, the Pali word uju, which upright is a translation of, means literally straight. So it means you're kind of ethically straight. You're not sort of crooked in the way that you act. So, for example, you turn up when you say you'll turn up. You'll remember what you've said you'll do, and you'll actually do it. So there's an element of just being a kind of a reliable, straightforward person, an honest, truthful person. And in a way, this is not an easy thing, is it? Because we often have the best of intentions, but we don't always follow through with our intentions. So an element of self-knowledge or integration is required. So that's why it's a practice. It's not just a matter of deciding that we're going to develop a particular quality. We need to kind of bring the different aspects of our character along with us. So again, the development of awareness helps with that. The integration, becoming a more together person. Perfectly. The next word is perfectly upright, suju, which is in a way it's sort of saying really, really upright, really straight. It's just su is just an intensifier. So you're really upright, and of noble speech, gently spoken. So this word gentle, what it means is that you're not rigid in your thinking. So one example of this is that you don't have to have your way. So you particularly notice this when you're working with other people, for example, and you've got a particular task to perform. And in that team, there might not be a sense that somebody's the boss. So you're trying to collectively figure out how to do a particular thing. And somebody wants to do it one way, and you want to do it another way. And it's quite interesting just to notice that tension of different people wanting to have their way, and noticing in your own mind how attached you are, not to getting the task done, but how attached you are to getting the task done in the way that you want it. You particularly notice this in teams, and it's quite helpful just to realize that often we are more attached to having it done our way than we are in just having a sense that there's a task that needs to be done and we need to fulfill the task. So we can often notice this, the sort of rigidity in our thinking, and rigidity in the way that we want to go, or the way that we think things should be done. And we do, like I say, come up against that often when we work with other people. So humble, what this really means is not being arrogant, not being kind of high-minded, not needing to assert our self in relation to other people. We're just quite happy in ourselves. So a lot of these qualities point to the sense of just being comfortable in our own skin. So we're learning to just acknowledge and accept the kind of shape that we are as a person, with our strengths and our weaknesses, and just acknowledge that, and acknowledge as well that there's the possibility of growth within that. So I think with that comes a sense of a kind of healthy self-respect. So this is I think what comes with particularly with self-metta is just a sense of you care about yourself, you know what you really need, and you can be strong in that. Having metta doesn't just mean acquiescing to what other people want. It's like we need to have that sense of what we need and what we want ourselves, not at the expense of others, but in a way, well, ideally in kind of communication with others. So we're sensitive to what we need and what we want, and we're also sensitive to what other people need and what other people want, and we're willing to negotiate, which we always need to do with human life. There's always a sense that we need to negotiate when our will comes into contact with somebody else's will. Our desire to do a particular thing comes into contact with somebody else's desire to do a particular thing. And a lot of these qualities are just about you being sensitive to others with that reality of human life, that there's competing interests or conflicting desires. So really, a lot of those qualities are just quite down-to-earth human qualities. In a way, it's not necessarily about being spiritual. It's about being a decent, healthy, friendly, straightforward human being. The sort of person that you'd want to spend time with, somebody who's good company, just in a very, very ordinary kind of way. And that is the foundation. Yeah, so that's why the Buddha's talking about these things, and why we're talking about them, because they create the foundation for the development of metta, for the development of this state of loving kindness. So the Buddha goes on to list quite a few more qualities. So he says they should be contented, easily supported, with few duties, of light livelihood, with senses calmed, discreet, not impudent, not greedily attached to families. So again, I'm not going to be able to talk about all of them, but I'll just talk about a few of them. So the first one is contented. Contentment is where we're able to find satisfaction with what we have, what we already have. So a really common view that we have is that if we feel unhappy, we'll be able to alleviate that unhappiness by getting something that we don't currently have. So that it sounds kind of obvious when you say it, but it's really quite a pervasive attitude that we have. And of course, most of us are going to be exposed to a lot of advertising, and advertising kind of feeds that view that we need something that we don't have in order to be happy, and we're not going to be too happy until we have it. So again, Metta Bhavana, meditation generally, helps us to develop a sense of content within our own mind. So it doesn't always happen immediately. Well, it usually doesn't. And you'll know that yourself if you try and meditate. Quite often what you do is you sit there wishing you were somewhere else, wishing you were having a different experience. So part of what we're trying to do is actually just learn to be with what's happening and find a sense of contentment within that doesn't rely on external stimulation. And part of developing contentment is to recognize that our desire for things we crave seldom bears any relation to the capacity of those things to satisfy the craving that we have. That thing when you're hankering after something, like you think, what I need right now is a bag of chips. And you get your bag of chips, and the bag of chips doesn't quite fill the need that you had. The need is for something else that the chips can't satisfy. So part of it is just about recognizing that pleasure is fine, and this is, I think, really important to recognize that there's nothing wrong with pleasure. The problem happens because we expect more from sense pleasure than sense pleasure is able to give us. And I think if you recognize that, you can actually enjoy whatever sense pleasure you have just on its own level. It doesn't need to be anything else for you other than a nice meal, or the sun on your skin, or all of these things that you can just enjoy them for what they are without needing them to be something more than what they are. So hopefully you kind of get what I'm talking about. So easily supported with few duties. So what this is really, I think, pointing to is that it's really easy to get really busy. and have your fingers in loads of pies. And part of it, again, is recognizing that we actually have a choice. We often have more choice than we realize. We often just have this idea, the story about our lives that, oh, we're really, really busy. So, you think, oh, I'm really, really busy, but lots of things to do. And with it, we often don't realize that quite often that's a choice. Not always, obviously. Sometimes life just does throw a lot of stuff at us all at the same time. But very often, we're just choosing to be involved in lots and lots of things. And if we're involved in lots and lots of things, it's very difficult to give our attention to one thing in particular. So part of what we're trying to do is just recognize that we have more control than we realize, and make more conscious choices about what we're going to put our energy into, and not taking on too much. And this is important. It relates to meditation. So in order to have a meditation practice, if you don't have a meditation practice and you're trying to start one, you have to let go of something. You can't just squeeze meditation in and keep everything else you're doing going. If it's just, in a way, just maths. If you've got however many waking hours in the day, you can't just squeeze in another thing without letting something else go. And I think that's part of what we need to do, is just to learn to make a choice. So that, no, this is really important. That's less important. I'll do the thing that's really important. I'll let the other thing that's less important go. And it's really tricky, actually. I think it's particularly difficult now that there's so many streams of stimulation that are available to us. At literally, if you've got a phone, which I have right next to me, it's really easy. I could just put my finger on the Facebook icon, and I could disappear into a whole world of Facebook, which would be not awful, but it's probably not the best thing I could be doing, if you sort of see what I mean. So yeah, it's just recognizing that. So hopefully that you kind of get the idea. So that's what it's pointing to. That's the principle of what it's pointing to. And I just wanted to say, the last line is not greedily attached to families. Another translation has it, don't hanker after families or groups. So what this is about is not seeking a sense of security from a group that you happen to belong to, like a family group or a group of friends. So learning a little bit more to stand on your own 2 feet, to develop individuality yourself, and to stand apart from needing the kind of comfort of a group in order to give yourself a sense of security. Now that's actually quite a challenging thing, and it has to be said that the Metta Sutta, while it's in a way quite an approachable teaching, it's actually quite challenging. So it's challenging us to be more truly individual, to be more truly responsible for ourselves as individual human beings, and to really make something of the potential that we have for growth as human beings. So I'll just leave it there for now. And like I say, there's plenty more detail and exploration of those qualities, but I just wanted to give you a bit of an overview of some of the kinds of things that the Buddha's talking about in terms of creating an ethical platform or an ethical foundation for the establishment and the cultivation, the progressive, deepening cultivation of metta. So what we'll do now is we'll go into home groups, into our breakout groups, and basically there's 3 questions. How did your meditation go this week? Any learnings that you'll be able to bring into the next week's practice? You might have noticed certain things, or just clocked certain things, or had little insights into your own psychology, etc. So any of those that you can bring into the next week of practice, and any reflections on the sutta that you would like to discuss. So there'll probably hopefully be a little bit of time for discussion. So there might be things that you've thought about or read about during the course of the last week, or maybe things that I was just saying just now. So yeah, well, contrary to what I said last week, Amy's beavering away there, and we'll just be able to go straight into our group. So Amy will just put us into our group, so you won't need to remember which group you're in. And I'll just put those, just before we go into the groups, I'll just put those questions in the chat. So the next part of the sutta says they should not pursue the slightest thing for which other wise people might censure them, or another translation has it, and avoid doing anything unworthy that wiser people would criticize. So what this is bringing in is the fact that this training that's being described, this process of acquiring a skill, takes place in relation to other people. In particular, it takes place in relation to people who are more experienced than us. And in a way, again, this is just a sort of a human thing. If you want to learn something, a really good way of learning it, whether it's hurling or the flute or pottery, a really good way of learning is to seek out somebody who's got more experience than you and more skill than you. It's very, very basic. It's even like, just children, when they're tiny, they see what their parents do and what their older brothers and sisters do, perhaps, and they copy it. And that continues. So the sutta, in a way, is recognizing that when we're talking about a training in ethics, we're recognizing that our relationships with other people who've got more experience than us will be really, really valuable. And that will help us to remember what would be a good thing, what would be good to do, and what would not be good to do. So there's kind of the censure or the criticism that's being talked about is of that kind of nature, that the person will be helping us. So the criticism will be coming from a desire to help us to grow. And it's really interesting to notice that if somebody criticizes you and they want you to see you grow, it's very, very different from the kind of criticism that comes from somebody who's just pissed off or frustrated or even wanting to kind of pull you down a bit. And actually, it can be quite invigorating to be criticized when it's done from that sense of wanting somebody else to grow. So that's what's being talked about here. I remember when I went to music school, and we used to have this thing called performance workshop, where you'd play music in front of other people and you'd get critique. And it's actually really, really valuable to get into that kind of space where you can you can show other people what you did and who you are, and you can get some feedback. And it's one of the functions of spiritual community is to provide a kind of environment where that kind of communication can take place. That's based on metta. So you see whatever it is the person needs to improve on, so to speak, in the context of an appreciation of their strengths as well, their particular qualities. And also, I think what comes out with metta is you start seeing people's particular character. You start appreciating people's particular character, and the fact that every one of us is entirely unique, which is kind of amazing. Like, when you think about human beings, obviously we share things, but at the same time, we're all utterly unique. Like, if you even just look at the people that are gathered here tonight, we all look different for a start, but we're all quite different. We're all unique, and it's one of the beauties of human life, and metta really brings that out. And furthermore, metta helps us to appreciate that fact. So there's almost like an aesthetic relishing of just the uniqueness of a particular individual. And if they want to engage in it, we can get into a kind of communication that's based on a shared desire to grow, to may you grow and develop. So I think what this is pointing to again is something which is, it's not necessarily a conceptual thing. It's not about learning a particular it's not about acquiring a particular a piece of knowledge, but it's about qualities kind of rubbing off on us. That people are much more porous than we usually think. We are much more porous. Other people's influence soaks into us, and our influence soaks into them. So the sutta, I think, is pointing that out in this particular part. It's pointing to the importance of who we associate with and how we associate with them, and trying to associate with people who are similarly committed to a path of growth, and actually seeking out some feedback, some critique, some sort of perspective from them. So that I think is the essence of what that verse is talking about. So what we're going to do next is I just wanted to say a little bit, and this is connected actually, because the next stage of the practice, stage 2 of the Metta Bhavana, is the stage where we bring to mind a good friend. So we'll already have hopefully some kind of sense of appreciation for them. We'll have some awareness of their good qualities, and we'll have some kind of sense of liking for them, some kind of sense of goodwill towards them. So it tends to be, but you never know what's going to happen with the Metta Bhavana. It tends to be relatively straightforward. And what we're trying to do in this particular stage, when we bring to mind a good friend, is in a way try to have metta for them for their sake. Like it's really nice to have friends that are well and happy and free from suffering. But we're not wishing them to be well and happy and free for us, but well and happy and free for them. So we're trying to, in a way, see them as an independent thing rather than belonging to us in some kind of way, if you see what I mean. So that's just a little point about the good friend stage. Traditionally, it's said that it's good to pick somebody who you're not romantically interested in, not because that's really bad or anything. It just makes it more complicated, as you can imagine. And to pick somebody around the same age, that's also recommended, so that again, other more complicated elements of human relationships don't enter into it. Like it may be a sort of parental feeling or a sense of being in a hierarchical relationship with somebody of some kind. So those are just a couple of words of advice about the person. And what we're doing here is we're entering into cultivating metta for somebody who's not present. So we're present, obviously, we're here already. So we're bringing to mind somebody who's not there. So what I wanted to do is just do a little experiment. So just close your eyes and just be with yourself for a bit. And then what I invite you to do is just think of your mum. Think of your mum. And if you don't know your mum, you might think of somebody who you're really close to, who's helped you, looked after you. So just notice what that's like, notice how that feels, but in particular, notice what you did when I invited you to bring them to mind. Notice what you did in your mind. Some of you might have had a sense of your mother like as an image, like a picture in your mind, like an image in your mind. You might have thought of her in that way. Some of you might have thought of her, maybe you might have heard her voice, the kinds of phrases or the particular sound of her voice, the quality of her voice. Some of you might have just felt a kind of physical presence, or maybe even a smell, or a particular sensation in the body. So the reason I do that is just to let you know, or to sort of in a way that when I say bring somebody to mind, which I will do in the practice, you can do that in whatever way feels natural to you. So the way that feels natural to you is probably what you just did when I asked you to bring to mind your mum. So it may be that, you, like I say, you might think of the way that they look, you might, etc. Yeah. So just do it. Just bring to mind your friend in whatever way feels natural to you. So that's just a few words of explanation about what we're going to do. I'll lead through the practice in a moment, but what I want to do before that is I want to just say a few words about sitting on the floor for meditation, just for about 10 minutes or so. So you'll just have to give me a moment to change the way the room's set up. So I'm just going to turn my camera off for a minute so you don't see me sort of mucking about. So I'll just be a minute. So hang on the line and just bear with me, and I'm going to move things around a little bit so I can show you how to sit for meditation. So there's recording in progress. So you'll need something kind of firm, like some yoga blocks like that. And basically, and not something too soft. If it's too soft, you won't feel solid, you won't feel stable. And then you just basically sit so that you're straddling your supports. So just to say, there's lots of things you can substitute for yoga blocks, like heavy books, big old heavy books. Maybe you've got a few encyclopedias in the garage or something like that. Or even just a chunk of wood actually will do it quite well. Once you put something soft on top. Folded blankets or folded towels work quite well. But you can just be creative, but you need something firm. But at the same time, you want something soft so you don't get a sore bum. The reason that we sit on something is so that our pelvis is upright. See, the way that I'm sitting there, my body's kind of upright. If I was to sit just on the floor, see what happens to my posture? The whole thing kind of collapses. And then what I would need to do, if I wanted to sit upright, and I would need to sit upright to kind of have the energy flowing in the body, I have to do that, which means I have to kind of pull my pelvis upwards with the muscles on my back. And that's okay for a while, but after about 5 minutes, it would just start becoming a strain. And after 10 minutes or 20 minutes, it become painful. So that's why we sit on support, is to bring some balance into our pelvis. But the height, you'll need to experiment a bit with the height. 4 of these blocks is perfect for me. But if you're a bit taller, you might need a bit more height, and if you're a bit shorter, you might need less. Generally, people sit a bit too low, so they're kind of sitting a bit like this. So that's the first thing to say. Make sure when you're sitting like this that your feet are pointing straight backwards. They're not pointing out to the side. The reason for that is it twists the knee. So whichever way you sit, if you're sitting on the floor, you need to be mindful of your knees, and you need to be really careful not to sit in such a way as you're going to put strain on your knees. That's a real no-no, because if you persist with sitting in such a way where your knees are under stress, you might damage the ligaments and so on. And I know friends have done that, and it's really difficult to live if your knees are problematic. It just makes life really difficult. So I'd really recommend that you just be mindful of your knees and don't put up with pain in your knees. You might find that there's a bit of strain in your ankles, so if you might put something underneath your ankles, or if you're sitting on something like I'm sitting on this mat, you can just hang your feet off the back. So I'd have to just move back a little bit, hang my feet off the back, and I can take the strain off my ankles. One more thing that's really nice to do is to get a blanket. So I've got a blanket here, and just to open the blanket up and to wrap it around you. I'll just do this kind of quickly. So just to wrap it around you, roll it down, and then what you get is you get a nice shelf to put your hands on, which means you can completely let go of your arms, which feels really good. You can completely let go of the weight of your arms, so they're just supported by the little shelf that you've made. And also in the wintertime, it keeps your legs warm. So that's the first way you can sit. You can also sit cross-legged. Like I say, just be kind of honest about how flexible you are. You don't get kind of extra points, so to speak, for sitting. Oh, the camera's just gone blurry. There we go. You don't get extra points for sitting in a way that's uncomfortable. And again, you need to be mindful of your knees, as I was saying. So if you have, generally speaking, for some reason, it's something to do with the way the hips work. It's often better to have a round cushion if you're going to sit cross-legged. So if I'm going to sit cross-legged, I'd need a little bit of height, so I would sit on something like that. And we say cross-legged, but actually, if you do sit cross-legged, like I'm sitting cross-legged, and hopefully you can see that because I've got black trousers on, but hopefully you can see that one leg is on top of the other leg. And what that'll mean is that the leg that's underneath will get squashed. And again, after about 5 or 10 minutes, you'll probably get pins and needles in one of your feet, the foot that's underneath. So it's more that you've got, you've got one leg in front of the other leg. See what I've done there? So this leg is on the floor and this leg is on the floor, and neither of them are on top of each other. So that's really the way to sit if you want to sit cross-legged, or at least sit in this kind of way. Now, you might find that one of your knees comes up like that. So if that happens, you can put something underneath it like that, and that'll just means that you can sit there comfortably. Again, there's no benefit from just sitting and putting up with a lot of pain. You might be a bit uncomfortable. If you're not used to sitting on the floor, it probably will be a bit uncomfortable. But your body will adjust. It's amazing how the body will adjust. So just, give yourself time for the body to adjust to it. You'll know yourself if you're flexible or not flexible. So that's sitting cross-legged. Again, you might like to put the blanket around your middle, like that, and roll it down. And you can put your hands here, which again feels quite nice having it next to your belly, because your belly is where your breath is. There's a lovely kind of symmetry to the body when you're sitting with your hands like this. And then you can place your hands on your thighs, on your knees, or you can place them here. You can do either. Some people like to have their hands up open like that. You can do that either. A lot of it's just a matter of trial and error. It's a matter of experimenting with different postures and finding something that works for you. So I really strongly recommend that you do that. You just, rather than just, forcing yourself into something, just tinker around with it, try different things, try different heights, try sitting on different things. Someone's just asked about yoga blocks. We do actually sell the yoga blocks here at us, and I know you're just up the road. So if you give us an email, we could arrange for you to come down. We're not kind of open at the moment, but we could arrange for that. And the other way, I just want to talk about sitting on a chair. So it's, just give me a sec. I'll just move that away. So I've just done something with the chair there, you can see, and I've just put a couple of blocks underneath the back of the chair. Now what that does is it lifts up the angle of the chair, see that there? And it means that, again, it helps you to keep your pelvis upright without needing to use muscular effort. So I could just sit there in the chair. It's good to have your feet squarely on the ground, and if you can, to have your back away from the backrest. If you need the support of the backrest, if you've got back problems, which I know a lot of people do, then by all means sit with your back against the backrest, but try not to kind of sit there like that. You really want your upper body to be upright. That just helps the kind of flow of energy in the meditation. And you want the chest open. Particularly with metta, it's all about the heart. It's all about the heart area. So if your body is open, it will create the conditions, it will create the environment for metta to kind of flow, because our body is an expression of our mind. The two are interconnected. So yeah, it's just a few words about sitting on a chair. And if you want, you can put a blanket around you. But it's really a matter of just experimenting. If we were doing a course at the centre right now, what I would do is I'd go around and help people to find a posture which works for them. But you'll just have to do that yourself. Do ask about it next week if you want to sit on the floor and you're still got questions. Do ask in the group that you're in, or ask me, and we can talk about it. Okay, so that's just a little bit about meditation posture, just to give you a sense of the main principles. So the main principles are basically just getting some height for your pelvis, so your pelvis can be upright, so you're not needing to use muscular effort. That's one of the most important things, really. And just making sure that you're going to be comfortable so you can relax for the period of meditation. All right. So I'll just turn myself back around, and we'll actually go straight into the meditation. So if you're already sitting in meditation posture, you could just stay there. Or if you're not, you could get yourself ready for meditation and just start meditating, just start relaxing into where you are, and I'll be with you in a minute or two. Okay. So you're looking to just drop into your present experience. And letting go of there needs to be a thought. So all the things I've just been saying, just trusting that the basic atmosphere is there. basic intentionality is there. And just begin to be curious about what your experience actually consists of right now. The different facets of being a living organism. So one of those facets is the sense of being in a particular place. So where are you right now, and what's that feel like? So we have a sense of our body as a field of sensations that exist in relation to other sensations. So we have a sense of our head being above our legs, our left side and our right side. So we have a sense of occupying a part of space and sensation arising in that space. So what sensations are arising? What do you actually notice? In the way of contact with the floor, with what you're sitting on, the contact of your skin with your clothing. And noticing the way that your body moves. So when you breathe, your body moves. In what way does it move? Where does it move? And notice the rhythm of the breathing as well. So there's an in breath and an out breath. And when we breathe out, we let go. The diaphragm releases. And we can tune into that release, particularly if we feel tense or anxious. That letting go that happens with the out breath can help us just to let go, to drop into whatever's going on for us. So spending a few moments just tuning into our breathing, just with a kindly, patient awareness, and allowing ourselves to arrive and deepen our awareness of our physical experience just through the breath. And just being kind to whatever emerges. So if difficult sensations or memories or thoughts arise, just allowing them to be there with a sense of kindness for ourselves. We can even say, and we can say this out loud if we want, may I be well. Trusting that expressing the intention is itself a transformative act. It might not feel like much right now, but it is a transformative action of mind. And then recognizing that there's more to us than just our body. There's the whole realm of mood, emotion, mind, thought. We say, may I be happy. And then we acknowledge the profound potential that lies within by saying, may I be free from suffering. If a sense of spaciousness, pleasure, or opening arises, just letting that unfold. If it doesn't feel like much at all, that's okay, don't worry. And then we say, to and for ourself, may I grow and develop. And then just sitting, so just letting go of trying to do this or that, and just sit. And then, in your own way, bringing to mind a good friend. And appreciating their uniqueness, the things that make that person, and not someone else. Particularly appreciating their good qualities. And just remembering or recognizing that your friend has a body, has sensation, and that is painful sometimes and pleasant sometimes. So they want to be well as you want to be well. And we say, may you be well. And your friend also is a mind. They can be happy, they can be sad, they can feel grief, they can feel joy, as we can. And we say, may you be happy. And they too have that potential for profound transformation and liberation. So we say, may you be free from suffering. And may you grow and develop. And then just sitting, letting go of the effort to do something particular and just remain aware of whatever is there. So bringing your meditation to a close. So this week, in terms of the home practice, if you're new to meditation, you might be best you would be best just to follow the video. So that the meditation that I just led there with the first and the second stages will be on the video, so you can just listen to it at home and practice. And the really important thing is, like I was saying, is to try not to take on too many things. So just think about like when you're going to practice, and it might mean letting something else go. It might mean going to bed a little bit earlier and watching a little bit less telly, or just think about it quite almost kind of ruthlessly. Like, what do I really need to do here to create this space in my day? That's the hardest thing, actually, to begin with, is just creating a regular space for your meditation and sticking with it. If you do, it'll really, really help you, because it will develop its own momentum. You'll just get up and you'll do it, or whatever time of the day you'll do it. If you're an experienced practitioner, if you've been doing Metta Bhavana for a while, maybe just bring one thing into your practice. Hopefully what we've been talking about tonight will have stimulated a particular reflection or a particular approach that you think you might find useful. So just bring that, just make a conscious decision now about what that's going to be. So that's the first thing for this week, is the meditation practice. The second thing is, I was talking earlier about that list of qualities. So able, upright, perfectly upright, noble speech, gentle, humble, contented, easily supported, with few duties of light livelihood, and so on. So if there was something that just particularly piques your interest and you thought, oh yeah, that would be good, or maybe something else that I didn't mention, but some sense of, oh, I could actually do that, and that would be good. That would be a way of creating a foundation for metta, but also maybe even expressing metta. So just think of one thing that you can do, that you can bring into your week that's related to those things. And the reading for this week is chapter 2, which is called The Ethical Foundations of Metta. There's 40 pages in this chapter, so it is the longest bit of reading for the course. Don't worry about it too much if you don't get through all of it, but do it is some really, really brilliant stuff in it. You might just read a few pages a day and just try and get a sense of what's being said in that text. And then if you tune in next week, and we'll look at the next part of the text, and which gets into actually the Metta Bhavana itself. And we'll look in particular at the third stage of the practice, the stage of the neutral person. So I'll be here for a few minutes afterwards if you've got any questions. I know there's one question that I didn't get to about the line about family. So if you do have a question, I'll be here for another few minutes. Other than that, well, I'll see you later. Yeah, see you next week.